She was tied to a fallen cottonwood less than 100 yards from her husband's ranch. Close enough that the sound of the windmill carried to her if the breeze was right. Close enough that the creek running behind the barn could be heard in its dry, patient way. Far enough that no one had to see her unless they wanted to. The sun bore down without mercy, bleaching the grass until it looked like old bone. The tree lay where it had fallen years earlier, roots torn free and still exposed, clawing at the air like a warning no one had bothered to clean up. The rope cinched her wrists and waist tight against the trunk. Her dress was torn at the hem and stained with dirt and sweat. Dust clung to her skin, settled into the lines of her face. Her belly was rounded beneath the thin cloth. Too visible. Too undeniable. The kind of shape that invited opinions from people who had no business forming them. She wasn't hidden. She was placed. Placed close enough to be found, and close enough to be talked about. Hank Caldwell saw her because the road cut past Mercer land. And because he'd taken that road 100 times without ever seeing something like this before. His horse slowed on its own, ears twitching, head lifting. Leather creaked. Hank followed the horse's gaze and saw the shape against the tree. At first, his mind refused to name it. Then the rope caught the light, pale and clean, and everything settled into place in a way that made his chest tighten. The Mercer ranch sat quiet behind her. Barn doors closed. House still. Too still. Like nobody was home, or nobody wanted to be seen. The windmill groaned once, slow, tired, metal complaining against itself. Hank slid down from the saddle. His boots crunched against the dirt, dry and brittle. He didn't take his eyes off the rope. She stirred. Her head rolled slightly against the bark. Her lips moved. "Don't do that," she whispered. "Please." It wasn't a scream. It was the kind of voice that told Hank this had already happened before. The kind of plea that came after shouting had failed. Hank stopped where he was. He was 49 years old. Widowed. A rancher who had learned the hard way that panic only made things worse. He took off his hat and set it on a fence post where she could see it. Then he set his canteen on the ground, a few steps away from her. He didn't push it into her hands. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. Her eyes flicked toward him, then past him, toward the house behind the trees. That told him enough. Hank stepped closer, slow, careful not to spook the horse still standing nearby. The reins lay loose over the saddle horn. Calm. Like this was just another stop. Up close, the rope bothered him even more. It was new. Not old ranch line. Not frayed or patched or sun-worn. Bought rope. Town rope. He knelt beside the fallen tree. The bark bit into his knee. He slid his knife free. Her breath caught. "Don't," she whispered. "I'm cutting you loose," Hank said. "Steady." He worked the blade under the rope, sawing slowly so it wouldn't snap back. The fibers fought him. Whoever tied her had wanted it tight. When the rope finally gave, her arms dropped heavy, like they'd forgotten how to move. She gasped and folded inward, one hand going straight to her belly. Hank leaned back, hands open. He didn't touch her. He waited. That was when he noticed what bothered him most. Not the knot. The rope itself. Too clean. Too deliberate. They had paid for it. He let the cut rope fall and looked at the ground. Boot prints circled the tree. Deep heels, pacing back and forth. Like someone had waited. He stood and looked toward the ranch house again. No movement. No sound. Just the windmill complaining like it wanted nothing to do with this. "What's your name?" Hank asked. She swallowed. "Evelyn." He nodded once. "Evelyn." "I'm Hank." She didn't answer. Her eyes stayed on the house. Hank took off his coat and laid it across the tree trunk. Close enough for her to reach. She hesitated, then pulled it around her shoulders. That mattered. Can you stand? He asked. She tried. Winced. Shook her head. Hank didn't lift her. He brought his wagon around instead. Laid blankets down. Turned his back while she shifted over. Gave her what dignity he could. As he tied the horse, his fingers brushed the rope again. It stayed in his mind like a splinter. The wind picked up, carrying hay dust from Mercer land. He's my husband, Evelyn said suddenly. Hank looked at her. He said the baby wasn't his. Hank didn't ask who she meant. That wasn't an accident, Hank said. She nodded. He said people would see. That it would end the talk. Hank climbed onto the wagon seat. The ranch behind them stayed silent. Too silent. He glanced back once more at the fallen tree, the rope still lying there like someone might come back for it. Hank kept the reins loose and didn't pick up speed until Mercer land fell out of sight. Hank's ranch wasn't much. A low house. A barn that leaned but held. A corral patched more times than he could count. It wasn't welcoming, but it was quiet. He helped Evelyn down without lifting her. Just steadying her elbow until her feet found the ground. Inside, he poured water into a tin cup. She drank, then stopped, breathing slow. You're safe here for the night, Hank said. For the night, she repeated. He nodded. Night's all I'm offering. That settled something in her. Later, while Hank washed his hands at the basin, Evelyn spoke again. He said it would be cleaner this way. Hank didn't turn. He said if people saw me like that, they'd understand. Understand what? Hank asked. That I was the problem. She wasn't crying. She was tired in a way that came from being argued with too long. Did he tie you himself? Hank asked. She hesitated. Then nodded. He didn't rush. That's what scared me. A tin can rattled against the fence outside. Hank froze. It rattled again. He stepped onto the porch. Fresh boot marks near the gate. Heavy heels. He didn't follow. He latched the door. Set the shotgun by it, quiet and ready. Later, he found a length of rope hanging from the corral post. Looped once. Then twice. Same rope. Same message. He cut it down and laid it flat on the dirt. They know where you live now, Evelyn said. Yes, Hank replied. And they know you saw. Yes. In the morning, she asked. In the morning, Hank said, we stop hiding. Cheyenne woke slowly, like it didn't want to deal with what daylight would bring. Hank sent a wire for Sheriff Rollins. He felt the room change before he heard the voice. Morning, Caldwell. Deputy Rohr stood in the doorway. Caleb Mercer stepped out of the shade behind him. Clean shirt. Calm face. Rohr unfolded a paper. Complaint, he said. Abduction. Caleb sighed like this was inconvenient. Hank read the paper. It was clean enough to fool a crowd. Justice Hartwell's name sat neat at the bottom. Evelyn gripped Hank's sleeve. Please. Not loud. Hank stepped half a pace forward. You didn't ask her, Hank said. I don't need to, Caleb replied. Hank drew his revolver and fired once into the air. The sound cracked the morning open. Everybody back, Hank said. Then Evelyn spoke. That changed everything. By afternoon, rope was no longer just rope. It was proof. A ledger entry altered after the fact. A supplier's stamp. A boy's courage. A notch in a boot heel. Paper had started this. But paper was about to lose.